and Australia celebrated their 70 years of diplomatic relations 2 years ago. So it's a whole long relationship between the two countries. And I would like to say that to describe it, it is very, very satisfactory, a relationship that we have with Australia. Australia had been one of the steadiest partners of the Philippines. It had been putting a lot of support for the Philippines in the security defense areas, in education especially, and then capacity building for different institutions in the country, and then also development in Mindanao. Most particularly the education of women and girls in Mindanao had been one of the main projects, and then the K-12 program that had been initiated a year ago had also been very much supported by Australia. Now, from the humanitarian side, they were one of the first to come to our rescue noong Typhoon Haiyan. Sila yung nagpadala ng pinakaunang ship to be able to help in the humanitarian activities to address those affected by Typhoon Haiyan. And then another thing that we can look at, for Australia is we have trade and investment. Trade, the two-way trade is something between 4 billion, but we get more imports than exports. But they put in a lot in terms of investment back home, amounting to 9 billion. Now, most of their investments are in the IT BPM industry. So the voice part of IT BPM is one big investment that they have. So you have like ANZ, you have Telstra, you have QBE among the big players. And they normally employ about 50,000 young Filipinos in their companies. But voice is not just one of those areas of investment. In fact, there have been numbers coming in for the non-voice or the knowledge-based BPOs in the Philippines. And I think this will continue to increase over a period of time. And then sa defense naman, we have a very good defense cooperation with them. We have a SOBFA with them. And by the way, the Philippines and Australia have a comprehensive partnership. Yung unang level, di ba, strategic partnership. Yung pangalawang level, ito yung comprehensive partnership. That's what we have with Australia. That's why if you see the range of cooperation, it really is huge. Like what I was telling you in defense. They train a lot of our defense people. So it's capacity building. They also have joint exercises. And then the Marawi crisis was a very good show of cooperation between our countries. Australia provided a lot of support for that. That is, during the operations, of course, quite a number of intelligence sharing and all. And the post side of it, they are very much involved in the rehabilitation of Marawi. Okay. From the cultural side, siguro hindi alam lahat ng mga tao ito, pati rin dito, kaya ito ay kinukwento namin, na yung mga unang Pilipinong dumating dito nasa 1800s pa lang, no? In 1860, many Filipinos came as pearl divers. Ang unang pinasukan nila were in Broome, in Darwin, and in Queensland. So these Filipino divers were among the group that came in to do that industry. It was a dirty industry, very dangerous. Dahil mag-dive ka, wala kang gear. But they were the first who came in. And I think they left imprints in the societies that they lived. They married some Aboriginal women. And then they introduced certain aspects of the Filipino culture. Mga simbahan. In fact, some churches were built by them. There's one church that has a very good facade made of pearl shells. And this was one of those that the Filipinos left behind. They introduced basketball. They even introduced adobo. Kaya yung mga Aboriginal women and Aborigines who are from Darwin and from Queensland, parang naiwan nila yung recipe ng adobo mo na medyo may konting tweak lang, no? But I think that's one of those that they left behind. So I think it's a very rich history. And we continue to have a lot of students coming here in the universities doing masteral programs and PhD programs. And then from their side naman, the New Colombo plan that they have been pushing, they encourage Australian students to go to universities outside of Australia and into the different ASEAN countries. So it's a very good investment of goodwill between our two countries. And of course, another thing that Australia has been helping us with is also even in the drugs problem, the resolution. They do it through the WHO, no? Assistance into measures to address the drugs problem had been channeled through the World Health Organization. And then siguro, mga Filipino sa Australia, we have a huge number. I think we're the 5th largest ethnic community here. There are over 240,000 Filipinos scattered all over Australia. The biggest is in New South Wales, dito sa area kung saan doon ng Sydney. We have about over 100,000 dito. Tapos ang pangalawa nasa Victoria, sa Melbourne. Tapos ang pangatlo sa Queensland. So yun ang distribution. Although meron tayo hanggang sa Northern Territory, yung Darwin. And then meron tayo sa Perth, may Adelaide, and and ACT of course, kung saan nandun ang Canberra. So I think that's by and large an overview. And then as a bilateral partner, they have been very, very engaged with us. And we continue to have different platforms of bilateral consultations with them in political security, in defense, and even in trade. No? And it's good also to know that there are Philippine investments here in Australia. Yung ICTSI has this Port of Melbourne that had been digitized by ICTSI. So it is a container terminal that is operating without people on the ground. Rather, it's all digitized in terms of operation. So that's a very big investment. And then you have San Miguel also that had come in. You have Robina Corporation that bought an Australian brand, yung snacks brand. And Nissin Mond is also another one that is in here. So we get big investments, of course, also from the Philippines. Hindi lang galing dito, kundi meron din galing sa Pilipinas papunta rito. Ito yung isang agenda natin na lakihan itong trade relations. At ito rin ang isa sa mga dahilan kung bakit din nandyan ngayon yung ASEAN-Australia Summit. Actually, from the bilateral, we're going to use the platform of ASEAN, which is a regional organization, to further the areas of cooperation. So from the economic, the defense, and then the socio-cultural facets of the whole of the ASEAN vis-a-vis Australia. Australia is the first dialogue partner of ASEAN. And then this will be the first time that Australia will host the summit, the ASEAN-Australia Summit. Now, what does this action take or mean? Well, it is a reflection of the importance that Australia puts into ASEAN. I think it is a reality that Australia is within the midst of the Asia-Pacific region. And I think Asia is now sort of the cauldron, the center of economic development and progress throughout the world. So everyone's veering towards this direction. Like a single ASEAN with about 600 million people, it's a huge market. So not only to be looked into as a consumer market, but as a partner for development. Because as we all in Asia grow, then it is also good for our neighbors. And if our neighbors grow economically, we also benefit from the growth of our neighbors. So dito sa ASEAN-Australia summit na ito, I think it's good to look at it like, what platforms and agreements have there been between ASEAN and Australia? Now you have the free trade agreement. I think that's a very robust agreement because it will encourage more trade between the 10 ASEAN countries and Australia. It is a good platform for a win-win situation. In fact, there had been a lot of campaign for more Australian companies to do business in the different ASEAN countries. Kailangan pang mas maraming information campaign na ito ang ASEAN, ito ang mga oportunidad, and this is one very good objective of this ASEAN-Australia Summit, to make known to the rest of Australia and the rest of the world that there is this ASEAN grouping where there are lots of business and investment opportunities, and even the goodwill people-to-people linkages that can be established through this particular platform. So this particular conference has, like, preparatory to the summit, you have the Conference on Counterterrorism. Now, I think this is a commonly shared challenge, not only in the region, but all throughout the world. Australia is very strong in this. We are, in ASEAN, also are very strong in it. The Philippines is very, very strong in this. Especially the Marawi crisis taught a lot of lessons for us, for the region, and throughout the world. I think it was a different type of engagement that had happened in Marawi. And I think giving a premium to this is important, because if we want our economic development to continue, it is important to safeguard the security of the region. In the same way that if we are worried about counterterrorism, then we also have to take good care that the flow of trade is continuous, that there should be the freedom of navigation, there should be the free flow of trade, there should be the free flow of services and investment. That will all be the drivers for development. So I think these are the key elements, and then Australia's involvement in ASEAN is huge. Just like education too. If they have been doing that in the Philippines, they're doing it in the whole of ASEAN. A very good example is you have this teacher training program, English teacher training programs, which the Australian side had been doing with the other ASEAN countries. The New Colombo plant is another very good example. And then the linkages of the businesses, like the business councils, being linked with the business councils here in Australia, are very good examples of efforts really to be able to up the ante of ASEAN within Australia. Now, I've been into many fora in the last few days, really, and it was a very good, they were all very good fora because they dealt with opportunities, challenges in ASEAN, and then where can Australia come in, and where can both ASEAN and Australia can benefit from. Pati yung humanitarian side. It's not only us that they've been helping, but the rest of ASEAN. ASEAN has a department or a unit on humanitarian assistance by which all assistance for countries within ASEAN who had been affected by natural disasters are channeled through. Australia had been very, very active in that. I think one of those na nakita ko with my very own eyes ay yung pre-positioning ng mga goods before disasters. Nakita ko yan na ginawa nila sa DSW, the warehouse sa Pasay City. And I think that was an Australian experience planted back into the Philippines, which we found very useful. Parang pagdating ng calamity, kaagad yan nakapapadala, maayos. And nakita ko rin sa Darwin, where they have those type of prepositioning for humanitarian response, no? Humanitarian disaster response. I think they are very good, should we say, practices. They are some sort of the best practices in certain facets of the Australian community can be shared with the rest of ASEAN. Okay.
So, para in short po, the Philippines has a lot to benefit from this summit?
It's both ways. They benefit either way. I think it's good to look at it that it's both. Example, security and defense. I think while we have capacity and capability training given to our people, I think the experiences of our soldiers on the ground, the Marawi incident itself is a very good lesson for everyone, not only for Australia, but I think for the rest of the world. It's something that we have to be prepared for. And I think the lessons learned from there can be really shared. And also how we handled it. I think we're proud of the way it was handled. You know, it can be one of the best practices by which to handle such kind of conflict. You know.
Philippines.
They look at the Philippines as an important partner. I think that is the reality. And I think the programs and the joint cooperation programs that we do are usually discussed between the two parties. It's not a one-sided thing. It is always the subject of discussions between the two parties. They see the Philippines important. I think we have seen how they also have been supporting the Philippines in many facets, like what I mentioned earlier. And even our advocacies in the international arena. They have been very supportive with us. In our issue on the South China Sea, particularly on the arbitration case, we've seen how they lent their support to us, because they also give importance to a rules-based regime, the importance of international law, the importance of keeping open the lines of trade and the flow of investments. They look at us as important partners who also have the capacity to contribute to the region. I think they've seen the leadership role that we've been playing in quite a number of issues within ASEAN and within the United Nations. We are within a group of like-minded countries in a lot of issues that impacts on us bilaterally and also multilaterally. So they look at us as a partner, a reliable partner, a partner that is perhaps positioned very strategically in many, many ways. And at the same time, they have been very supportive of programs and institution building in the Philippines that will help continue make it a very progressive country. So parang yung K-12 na education, those are all impacting into economic development. Education of women and girls in Mindanao is a very good empowerment program that will also drive development. And then for defense capability, I think the exercises, the joint training that they do also is extremely a plus for us and also for them. So I think by and large, they look at us with respect and they believe in the capacity of the Philippines to grow itself more and become, you know, to have a continuing leadership role within the region and as a partner of Australia.
And I believe mo siguro the Filipino community here has been contributing a lot rin po sa economy ng Australia kasi.
Oo, alam mo naman Filipino, very active yan. They are very well organized. And this is a country that is very respectful of diversity. In fact, when I talk to politicians and leaders, they always compliment me with the Filipino communities in their respective constituencies. Kasi daw aktibo at saka very participative at inclusive. And I think that's very good to know. In fact, you have groups of women who at the very, very outset, even as early as the 1980s, were very involved with women empowerment, protection of the rights of women, especially migrant women, when, you know, you have all these intermarriages and all. So these were groups of women. There were what you call the Illawarra women who joined other like-minded Australian women and other migrant women who really lobbied hard for measures that will protect the rights of migrant women. And these groups continue to be advocates for a lot of social development issues. So parang for the aged, for the elderly, for the children. They support some charities here, they support charities back home. So makita mo nung hayan nga raw, napakaraming grupo, both Australian, non-Australian, Filipino groups that really work together to be able to come with funds and other ways of helping the victims of Typhoon Haiyan. So the churches, the Filipinos are very active in the churches. I think kahit saan naman eh. Kung gusto mong maghanap ng Pilipino kung saan ka pupunta, punta ka sa simbahan, makikita mo. And I think it's also one of the places of active participation ng mga Pilipino. And even in political exercises, because some of them have dual citizenship. Political exercise sa overseas voting natin, ito ang isa sa mga big, what you call this, source of votes. It's not as big as the others like Hong Kong or Singapore, but still big by the numbers of people here. And parang Sydney had over 3,000 that votes na registered last time. And then voting for their local parliamentarians, they have been very active. They also exercise, you know, lots of lobbying, anything that will pertain to them. They know how to approach their politicians and lobby for issues really that matter for them. And then siguro ang isang maganda pang mabanggit ko rito is yung political exercise at political administration. Yung Blacktown, dito sa New South Wales, it's a city. We have 5 Filipino councillors in that city of Filipino heritage. So, 2 ang babae, 3 at lalaki. So, I think this is a very good, should we say, reflection of how much participation is being generated now. And we hope that it can also be replicated in the other states. Dahil yun din nga yung palaging napag-uusapan ng mga grupo. They have an umbrella group of organizations from all the states. Dito tawag nila Filipino Communities Association of Australia. So they meet, they track programs on what the community should be doing. And I think during those particular discussions, yun na nga, leadership participation. Hindi lamang support group, kundi to be in the realm of leadership, political leadership. And also mentoring of the young Filipinos for the next generation of leaders. Dahil siyempre yung mga una, tumatanda na rin yan. So that is now the direction that the community is taking, you know, to ensure that they will have active participation and that their voice will also be heard. Oh, everybody is excited, lalong-lalo na nung si Presidente. Naku, grabe yung excitement ng mga Filipino. Yeah. And then of course, with Secretary Cayetano, they are equally here supportive of his visit. In fact, I came here from Canberra to meet with the community, and everybody is very excited to have leaders coming from the Philippines, you know. And of course, there's always the pride that you are one of those that have been invited here. And the Prime Minister had always had also good words about the Philippines. After he came to visit for the ASEAN summit, no? I think he has always said that the Philippines is a partner. And then he also had acknowledged the appreciation he got from the defense establishment about the help that Australia had given during the Marawi crisis. And of course, also for other development programs that have been pushed by the Philippines with some assistance from Australia.
Okay. Final message na lang po, ma'am.
Well, we all hope that this ASEAN-Australia summit is a success. And I think the measure of success will be how all these programs, how all these agreements coming from here will trickle down to the people on the ground. And I think it behooves all of us, be it government, the private sector, to really cooperate to make a better world, to make a better Philippines, to make a better world, which will then be inherited by the younger generation. Mabuhay. Thank you.